welcome to another Live with Omar Moore. Hello, 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 everybody. Thank you very much for joining. I do hope you can hear me, and I do hope you're having a very good Sunday. Welcome aboard. Thank you very much for subscribing. Please, if you can, be a paid subscriber. That would be glorious. Would absolutely love that. Hit the hearts for us as well. That'd be so kind of you. And of course, if you are not able to be a paid subscriber, that's all right as well. You can be a free subscriber. Welcome aboard. And again, I want to actually say this to you. Happy Bad Bunny Sunday. Because I know most of you don't give a rat's about the Super Bowl, who wins, who loses. You care about Bad Bunny. And the New York Times today has put that on its arts and leisure front page of its arts and leisure section about Mr. Bad Bunny. And all of the anticipation for that Super Bowl halftime show. I almost said the halftime Bad Bunny show because that's really what it's going to be. Thank you very much, Morgan, for that, for those kind words. Morgan writes, "Happy Bad Bunny Sunday to you." Absolutely. So the New York Times, by the way, did this. And good morning to you, Rebecca. Pleasant good morning to you. I hope you're well. Nice to see you. And so, of course, the New York Times today, in its arts and leisure section, did a whole write-up about Bad Bunny today. As a whole page spread on Bad Bunny, and all of that. So I'm sure you'll watch that. Just a few things to say today. Try to get through this as quickly as possible as you enjoy the rest of your day. This day also is a day, and I'm going to be a bit sober here for a few moments, because on this day, Super Bowl Sunday, is traditionally a day where domestic violence inside the United States spikes. Now, domestic violence happens horribly and sadly all the time in this country and anywhere around the world. But particularly on Super Bowl Sunday, there are enough studies that have been done by advocacy groups and groups who fight back against domestic violence and have hotlines who talk about the fact that on a day like today, Super Bowl Sunday, the incidences of domestic violence spike even higher than they usually do. And so on a day like this, it's important on every day of the week and year to not only think about survivors and think about people who are in abusive relationships, but also seek help for them. If there's anyone you know who is in a domestic violence situation that's very abusive, obviously, and very violent, anything like that, there are hotlines and places that you can get help. There's a number of them out there. I should have actually brought some up to mind, but please spare a thought for people in those situations today and every day. It's a horrible situation. So I just want to mention that. We need to be talking more about these kinds of issues that are uncomfortable for some, but we have to talk about this. It's one of the most evil things, and toxic masculinity needs to be wiped off the face of this earth. And it starts with education of men and boys. It starts with changing this culture from a patriarchal culture to a culture of love and embracing, and in fact, to a more matriarchal culture. That's where these things really start. It starts with each and every one of us, too. It starts with the way that we think, the language in which we think in. It starts with all those very important things. It's not easy for people to get out of abusive relationships. It's not. Particularly, specifically women. There's all kinds of very complicated reasons why a woman is not able to get out of those relationships. And I think we all know that. We have to be honest about that. So, I just want to spend a few moments talking about that because men are the ones ultimately with the responsibility to be better and to not be violent. And we all need to play a role, particularly men need to play a role in teaching boys and talking to other men about ending this violence. So those are the kinds of things I wanted to talk about on this Bad Bunny Sunday. I do hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. Now, there's a few other things I want to get to, and thank you, Kimmy. You're absolutely right. It's nice to see you. I don't do these things very often. Sometimes on a Saturday I'll do these. But I will be on here again actually on Tuesday. I should point that out before I continue, because on Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to have a guest with me. So it's not going to be yours truly alone here. I'm going to be having a guest. His name is Cordell Martin, and he and I will be having a conversation about the Black Real Film Awards and talking a bit about that, as we are in awards season in film right now. We had the Directors Guild of America Awards last night, uh, where Paul Thomas Anderson, if you're a film fan, Paul Thomas Anderson, who directed one battle after another, ended up winning the DGA Award for Best Director, which gives him the front runner leverage going into the Oscars, which are coming up, the Oscars on March the 15th. But the Black Reel Awards, there's so many awards shows, right? There's so many of them. Whether it's the NAACP Image Awards at the end of this month, whether it's the Actor Awards, formerly the Screen Actors Guild Awards, beginning of March 1st, the Oscars on the March 15th, the NAACP Awards are set on the 28th of this month. So many award shows and things going on. So we'll be talking about the Black Reel Film Awards that are coming up actually at the end of this coming week. But we'll talk about that. Cordell Martin, who is the organizer and one of the organizers and chairs of the Black Reel Film Foundation, and we'll be having a conversation at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Central. That's coming up this coming Tuesday. Please join us here. Hit those hearts. Please subscribe. And thank you very much for being here. Now, those some things I wanted to say. Also, before I get to the main topic, which is going to be voting and some of the news items of the day, one of the things I wanted to get to is we just really hope on a day like this, on any day, that any missing person, any missing child is found and returned safely. We all know about the situation that Savannah Guthrie's family is going through, and that situation is not unlike what millions of people's families go through every day across this planet. So it's very important to spare thought for all of those families and people who are going through exactly what Savannah Guthrie and her family are going through right now. Of course, we hope and pray for the safe return of any loved one, including, of course, Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy. So we do hope that those prayers are answered for her safe return and the safe return of so many missing children and missing people at large around this world. Particularly, a lot of people that go missing, many of them are Black women, Black girls that go missing as well. And we need to be holding them up in our thoughts and prayers as well. A couple other things before I get to the main event here. I do want to talk briefly about what happened with the Obamas. Obviously, we know how racist that was. Donald Trump has been doing this for 50, 60 years. We also know that the Obamas have been attacked by many people who are prominent, Republicans or otherwise. When they were in office, the attacks on them by Sarah Palin, the attacks on them by numerous other Republicans, whether they were local Republicans in New Jersey, all over the place. This is something that did not just begin with Donald Trump, of course, and we all have to stand up and speak out against this. We also have to stand up and speak out against what's happened with Black women. Nearly over 400,000 Black women between January 2025 and right now have been fired from the workforce. The vast majority of them fired from the federal workforce, and it was over 300,000 toward the end of last year. So, that was Donald Trump doing that too. So we really, really, really must keep an eye on that and be just as outraged, if not more so. I'd frankly say more outraged about the 400,000 Black women who have been fired from their jobs in the federal workforce by Donald Trump, predominantly in the federal workforce. Because think about all of that. Think about all those Black families who don't have a breadwinner. One of their breadwinners gone. And in a number of Black families, the breadwinner is the Black woman. So then when you fire her from that 30-year job, civil servant job, or that 20-year job, or that 10-year job, or 5-year, so a lot of families get hurt by that, as they do in any family. Let me just see if I can get to one other thing before I get to the focus here. Two things, actually. One of them is, if you are someone who is a believer in being an anti-racist, or being someone who is an ally to Black people, and you're watching this, if you're white, or if you're not Black, where whomever you are, I want to know, and I asked this yesterday, have you reached out to a Black person that you know offline within the last 24 or 48 hours since what happened to the Obamas? That is a question for you, and you don't have to answer it here. If you know what the answer to that question is, and I'm sure you do, then um, please reach out to someone that you know who is black offline and ask them how they're doing in the wake of what happened with the Obamas and the racist attacks on them. Because what people have to understand here is that this isn't only an attack on the Obamas, this is an attack on every single black person. That's what it is. And these tropes have been around for centuries. Birth of a Nation, 1915, Woodrow Wilson showed that in the White House. And even before that, there were all kinds of other racist things, cartoons being racist cartoons and things. So if you're white watching this, or if you're someone else who isn't black in here, who is watching this now live or later, I really would like you to think about the answer to that question I posed. Have you reached out to a black person in the last 24 to 48 hours in the wake of the attacks on the Obamas? Because ultimately, this is, again, not only about an attack on the Obamas, it's an attack on every black person. And it also gives a lot of white people who see that racist attack more license to continue to do the racist things that they do to black people. So if you say you're an ally or an anti-racist, and you're white watching this, or you're someone else who isn't black who's watching this, I really want you to live up to that by doing a small, kind act of caring and love, and reach out to your black friend or black neighbor and just be candid with them about how you feel and ask them how they're doing. That's really what allyship is, right? That's on the very basic level, right? So that's one thing I wanted to say. I wanted to spare a few moments for that. And thank you, Kimmy, who says that is writing that she has reached out to a dear friend of hers, and that's really good. And then I want you, then Kimmy and Edie and whomever else, is to reach out to black people who you know offline, right, and tell your other white friends to do the same thing. That's what allyship is, right? These are things, and thank you for hitting the hearts. It's greatly appreciated. And these are the kinds of things that you have to do. I can tell you this: here we are in 2026, in 2022, and thank you, Morgan. I really would look forward to you following up there with that. Thank you. Um, in 2022, for example, when Roe v. Wade was overturned, one of the first things I did within about an hour to an hour and a half of that decision is reach out to female friends, call them, talk to them, ask them how they're, expressing my feelings about what's happened, and really ask them how they're feeling. You know, those are the acts of allyship. And I'm not trying to big myself up here. I'm just saying that these are the kinds of things we need to be doing. It's nice to be on social media, and it's very easy for us to go and make a statement on social media or here, like I'm doing. But we have to actually act. The solutions part is the part that we all must do. And it's people become to think that you substitute, you know, good social media, putting social media in place of what you really should be doing beyond the phone that you're on. And so these are things that we all can do. And we need to, and if you're white here watching, and thank you for watching, whomever you are, you need to challenge your white friends and neighbors who you have relationships with around issues of racism. You really do. I mean, this is how the allyship really works ultimately. So I wanted to say that and put that forth because I think it's very, very important. Very important. I reached out, as I said, in 2022 when Roe got overturned. I spoke to a number of female friends and associates and colleagues who I know, and spoke to them, and said, and offered my support. And those are things that we need in these times, right? Connection. Not just on situations like this, but anything. But it's really important to let people know that you're thinking of them. You know, let people know that you're thinking about them. I guess that's my point. Um, uh, you know, Another thing is, I'm just going to do this now before getting to the main events of this day that I want to talk about. If only, right? I know, I know, I know. If only. Our challenge, and this is part of the solutions oriented part that I'm going to get to later. Our challenge is to tell the 90 million people who were registered to vote but who didn't to get out there and vote, right? Because if you did, you would have had this instead of this, right? You wouldn't have this right now, and you wouldn't have that right now, right? You wouldn't have this right now, right? If those 90 million people who did not vote at all had done so, because I'm guaranteeing you all 90 million of them would not have voted for for what we're seeing now, or for what is in the White House. That's in today's New York Times Magazine, by the way. But anyway, um, yeah, it's a sad thing, and I think people look. We still have our feelings around all of this, and I think it's very clear that we should. Um, and yeah, yeah, you and me both, Kimmy. You and me both, and a lot of us in here who voted, I'm sure, voted for this as well here. Um, but there's some things coming up. We need to keep emphasizing the importance of voting. But I want to get to some news and then get to the voting part on this Bad Bunny Sunday. I don't know who you're rooting for. I'm rooting for Bad Bunny, but on this Bad Bunny Sunday, if you see a hat like this, those of you who care about sports or anything like that, you absolutely know that I am not rooting for the New England Patriots, because as a New York Giants fan, struggling as we have been over the last few years, this 18 years ago we beat the Patriots. We beat them twice. We're the only team to have done that when Tom Brady was the quarterback there. So I am so proud to be wearing this. I still wear this. This is from literally 18 years ago. You see there, February the 3rd, 2008. So look, I wear it with pride here in San Francisco. And people give you dirty looks, but that's all right. Well, some people are very nice here too. But anyway, Let's get to let's get to a few bits of news here, okay? You saw last night I posted about this in Louisiana, a really major result in a local election there, where the Democratic candidate beat the Republican candidate 62 to 38 in a district in District 60 in Louisiana that Trump won by 13 points in 2024. So that's a major trend line to keep looking at. We've seen that a number of times as far as that's concerned. Another thing I want to tell you about that you may not be aware of today on the international front. In Japan, there were some snap elections that were done by the very the far right, hard right, conservative prime minister of Japan, Sanai Takaichi, and her political party, along with its coalition party. And her party is called the Liberal Democrats, the Liberal Democratic Party. That's a far right conservative party in Japan. So just because, right, something's called democratic and then liberal as well doesn't mean it's not the liberal that you might think in some countries. So look, Sanai Takaichi, the first female prime minister of Japan, who came in to power in October, had some snap elections, and what happened was is that she and her party have ended up winning a pretty strong majority right now, with nearly all the votes counted, and so you're going to see more power from the hard right Japanese prime minister, who is very much aligned with Donald Trump, and they're as thick as thieves together, and so that's going to continue in Japan. So watch out for that. In Thailand today, there were elections. The polls have closed there. Elections between a hard right winger and the more centrist and reformists opposition. So we'll see what the results of those are in the next coming hours and days as those polls have closed. So those are two pieces of international news. A third piece of international news is, of course, what I posted on here recently in the last hour or so, is that the chief of staff of UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has resigned from his post. Morgan McSweeney is absolutely someone now who has left his post as Chief of Staff to the UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer. This is a firestorm moment. The reason why Morgan McSweeney resigned his post today is because he had recommended Peter Mandelson to be the the UK ambassador to the US. Now, as you know, fellow viewer and watcher here, Peter Mandelson had a very close relationship to Jeffrey Epstein. That is well known. It's known in the Epstein files. The Epstein files and the release of those in January and in February and in December is what prompted this. Mandelson resigned, I believe, either last month or in January when all these things came out, last month or in December when all these things came out around him. Peter Mandelson was the UK ambassador to the US. He quit that post in, I think, December or January of this year, whichever it was. So he went. Now, here's the story. Morgan McSweeney recommended to the UK Prime Minister that Peter Mandelson should be hired for that job of UK ambassador to the US. So Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, had known for several years that Mandelson had a relationship with Epstein. He knew that. He was very aware of that. Very aware. So now the talk in the United Kingdom, in my native United Kingdom, is Sir Keir Starmer should be leaving his post. That's what the talk is amongst the media, the glitterati of the media, if you will. I don't know if you want to call them that. The BBC News this morning have been having on pundits and people like that, people in the know, talking about, Sir Keir Starmer should really be considering his position right now because you've got Morgan McSweeney, who was the heartbeat of your operation for a number of years. He was your right-hand man as your chief of staff. He helped you get elected in 2024 as the Labour Party swept to a landslide in 2024 in July of that year, on July 4th, actually. You've been in power for a year and a half. You've fired this one and fired that one, but this Mandelson thing now is big. There's an investigation going on in the UK around Peter Mandelson, who was given a lordship in the House of Lords, by the way. Lord Mandelson. He has now been stripped of that lordship in the House of Lords. It's rare that the House of Lords actually strips your lordship or your ladyship, your lordship, or a dameship or whatever in Parliament, in the House of Lords. That's a big deal. So Lord Mandelson is just now Peter Mandelson, and Peter Mandelson and the current Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer had a pretty blooming close relationship too. So this is where this is now. There are people calling for Sir Keir Starmer to go. Oh, this is not good enough. The chief of staff is not good enough. You've got to fall on your sword too. That's a big story now in the United Kingdom, and we will see what happens with it. I don't know if Sir Keir Starmer can hold on to power as the prime minister, and I don't know if he were to go, who his replacement would be at this point. But the bottom line is that that's the news now in the United Kingdom that's going all over the place. The BBC, and I'll put this in the next edition of the Politicrat, did a really good half-hour segment yesterday or the day before around the Epstein files. They were very, very good. They do reporting on this because the media in this country, forget it. That's why independent news and media is so important here. The corporate news media in this country is not covering this the way the BBC is in the United Kingdom. And I'll put this in the podcast, I think, later today. It's a really good half hour on the real forensics of the Epstein files, the powerful involved, these powerful men, the implications, all of it. They go bit by bit by bit. They have 7 different correspondents talking about all of these things. Brilliant work. You're going to hear it on the podcast. I don't know where the video is, otherwise I'd link to that. But I saw this and I recorded it yesterday. you will not want to miss this next episode of the Politicrat, which I'm going to release a little bit in the next hour or two, because they go a good half hour and they just go into the weeds. You've seen a lot from Aaron Parnas on these files. One of those files that he put up yesterday, last night or this morning, I put up, I think it was last night. There's one document that showed this list of people that is being looked at. One of them is Bill Barr, and on the email it said Bill Barr, who was present when a girl was being raped. I mean, I'm sorry to blurt that out, but it's just so disturbing and so disgusting. Um, and we'll see what happens with the rest of these files. And Marnie, yeah, I've given up on the corporate media too, Marnie. It's a cesspool. It's a joke. It really is. And all these files, we need to find out. Yeah, this whole thing and Kimmy, absolutely. There's a document, and I posted it on my Substack. It's really, really bad, and we still have to get 2.5 million documents that have not been released yet. I really would like Robert Garcia, who is the House ranking Democrat in the House Oversight Committee, to release some of these videos that he and the Epstein estate have. He has them in his possession. He has 95,000 documents, videos, and such in his possession, which in November or December of last year, Garcia said on the steps of Capitol Hill were deeply disturbing and were working on redactions. You need to be showing this stuff to the public. Now, on that note, fellow viewer, okay, all these powerful men need to be punished. They need to go to prison. They need to be on trial. All these things they need to be investigated. Do you know there are at least 10 countries right now who are investigating heads of state, who are investigating all manner of people around these Epstein files? You've got in Norway, one of the royal family there is being looked at. I mean, and now she's backtracking and saying she wishes that she had no association with Epstein. And Mandelson saying that now in the United Kingdom. Well, too late for you, Mandelson. You got pictures of Peter Mandelson in his underwear. I mean, this is the thing this is why the stuff in the UK now is off the charts. You've got opposition parties calling for Sir Keir Starmer to stand down, meaning to leave, to consider his position, which is another way of saying you really should resign. So all this stuff is just, yeah, this stuff's awful, Marnie. Marnie writes, wasn't Bill Barr the last person that saw Epstein before he quote unquote committed suicide? Question mark. Nothing fishy there. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't exactly know for a fact if he was the last, Marnie, but yeah, the thing is, all these people come into question now. All these people come into question now. Marnie, it's a critical question to raise. Because you're not going to, because no one's going to tell me that document that we saw that I put up on Aaron Parnas and others have looked at, no one's telling me that document's phony, because it's actually bait stamped. And David, I would love to know who are under those redactions, because when you've got that list of people, and then at the bottom it says Bill Barr, who was present when a girl was being raped. There is so much here. It's so much to consider. We have to keep pushing on this. It's so important not to let this slide. And on the back of that, there are two important events happening this week. Tomorrow, February the 9th of this year, 2026. Look out for this in the morning hours. There is the House Oversight Committee who will be doing questioning of the child rapist Ghislaine Maxwell. She will appear from her prison live on video before the public on Monday. That's tomorrow, in front of the House Oversight Committee. Okay, so she'll be asked questions by the Democrats and the Republicans, and expect that the child rapist Ghislaine Maxwell will say things like, "Due to my rights, I do not wish due to my rights of self-incrimination under the Fifth Amendment, I will not be answering. I decline to answer this question." Expect that to be the refrain throughout the entire hearing for her. But I think it's worth watching. I think it really is worth watching this tomorrow, probably around 10 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow, somewhere around there. Ghislaine Maxwell testifying live in front of the House Oversight Committee. There's already been a lot of pre-talk and pre-hearing talk about Republicans being told not to ask questions of Bondi. I'll get to Pam Bondi in a minute, but we will see about Maxwell tomorrow. That's scheduled for, I think it's 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, Eastern time. So please, please, please look out for that if you can. It'll definitely be on C-SPAN, c-span.org online, or I'm sure it'll be on whatever channel you choose to watch Newswise live. PBS, I'm sure will have it live, or whomever you choose to watch. So keep out an eye for that. That's tomorrow, Monday the 9th. Okay, that's number one. Number two, on Wednesday the 11th of February, there is going to be a live hearing before the House Judiciary Committee. That's the committee headed up by Jim, G-Y-M, Jordan. Jim Jordan. We know about why he's called Jim, why he's spelled G-Y-M, not J-I-M. And so on Wednesday, February the 11th, at around, I guess, the 10 a.m. Eastern, around the same time or thereabouts, there will be testimony by Pam Bondi in front of the House Judiciary Committee. Now, the ranking member there is the Democrat Raskin, Jamie Raskin. So I want you to keep an eye out for that too. Stick a pin in those two dates. On the 11th of February, Pam Bondi is scheduled to testify in person around a number of things. I'm sure part of it will be maybe ICE. A lot of it will be perhaps the elections, and the Epstein files as well, most likely as well. So I'm sure that will be part of it. And the Republicans, there've been lots of talk about that with Republicans and being asked by Trump not to ask questions, really serious questions about the Epstein files, not to mention the Epstein files. There were news stories in the BBC that I read yesterday that came out, and elsewhere that I read that came out, that was saying that that Republicans have been getting these memos and talking points from Trump and others not to say anything to Pam Bondi during the hearing this coming Wednesday about the Epstein files themselves, but talk only in generalities. Generalities. So we'll see about all of that, okay? So keep an eye on both of those things coming up here in the next 3 or 4 days, and in between those 2 days, just a reminder again, yours truly and Mr. Cordell Martin will be on here together talking about the Black Real Film Awards, and so he runs those awards, and we'll have that conversation here again as a reminder, 7 p.m. Eastern time on Tuesday. So please join us for that as well. Now, the other thing I want to get to is voting. Okay, and thank you very much for watching. Please continue to hit the hearts as you're doing. Thank you. Please become a paid subscriber. If you can do so, it'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks to those of you who are, and to those of you who are free subscribers, thank you for that as well. It's greatly appreciated all the same. Please tell your friends and your neighbors and people who follow you to also subscribe to the Substack that you're presently watching, whether paid or free. Thank you for doing so. But I want to get now to voting, and I want to be as fairly brief on this. You see the T-shirt that I'm actually selling on the Politicrat store, which is a store that I have put together with a lot of merchandise that I've designed over the last couple of years, last few years, and this is one of the things that I'm selling on the website that I have, which I will also type in here in a moment. But I want to talk about voting. And then, look, I'm going to be doing this quite frequently throughout the year. We all know a number of things. We know about what Trump had said last week about the elections. A lot of this is about fear. I think we all know that by now. This is about trying to deter you from voting, what ICE is doing, the violations and the absolute breaking of the law that they're doing, and the murders and the executions they're committing. It's all about trying to prevent you from voting. The raid in Fulton County, Georgia, a week and a half ago, all about trying to intimidate you from voting, because if you are fearful, then what will happen is that will help discourage you from voting. But we cannot afford to not vote. We have to vote. It's very critical. There are lots of laws, and I've talked about this before, that prohibit any federal agents or officers or military from being stationed at polling booths. Now, again, it's not that this criminal regime won't try to break the law. Of course they will. They have done it before. But remember, what you're seeing, dear viewer, is a repeat of what we saw in the 1960s. This is not new. right? When there were people, white people, who were being sent to voting booths to intimidate black people from voting in the Deep South and in other places. So, what we're seeing here, understand this, is nothing new. I mean, it may be new in the fact that you have ICE agents doing it, but it's really not new at all. So we've got to remember that we've got to have history be our guide. And people in those times in the 60s fought back and did the nonviolent civil disobedience and did all kinds of things. And they went out and bravely voted anyway. I mean, when Dr. King marched, see, people forget this. In 1966, when Dr. King was marching through the streets of Chicago, he was met with so many white people holding up swastikas, spitting on him, calling him end this and end that, and jeering him in Chicago. So, this is not just the South. As Malcolm X said, if you're south of he once famously said this, Malcolm X, if you're south of the Canadian border, you're South. A lot of people forget that when Dr. King walked through Chicago in 1966 and around that time, white folk in Chicago booed him, jeered him. He was not well liked by a lots and lots. Most of white America did not like Dr. King when he was alive. And people have to remember that, you know? We have this idea that, oh, that no. And there are some black folk that didn't like him either. And for some people, Malcolm X's presence made Dr. King a bit more palatable. But the fact is that both of them were hated. So I want to just mention that. And this thing about the voting, you know, people worked so hard and took so many risks to vote. And so we have to do what we have to do. We have to vote. We have to vote. There's laws in the Title 18 USC code. All these laws, Code 19, Section 192, I think, and 193 or something like that, 292 or 293. And I posted it on Substack, which says that you can't have these intimidation at the polls. There's state and local laws against this too. And Steve Bannon can pop off all he wants. This is all intimidation. He knows damn well that this is illegal to do. He knows damn well. He knows also, by the way, and you may know this too, a number of secretaries of state over the last few days have made statements, have gone on TV shows, and have said, no, we're not going to allow our elections to be intimidated. We're not going to be intimidated at all. We're going to have people out here making sure that you can vote safely and vote in person if you want. We're not going to allow intimidation. The governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, just a few days ago, made a statement about this on one of those platforms that shall not be named, where she put out a full video. And I'm going to put this statement that she made on the podcast, the Politicrat podcast, and please listen to it. Later today, I'll post it on Substack. And she made it very clear, we are not going to be intimidated by the federal government. We are going to run our elections. We don't care what Donald Trump says. We are running our elections safely. And you can take that to the bank. Also, Secretary of State of Arizona, Adrian Fontes, made statements this weekend on various news outlets saying the same thing. We are not going to allow any intimidation. So no matter what you hear in the news about Steve Bannon opening his mouth, someone who has not showered since 1977, Steve Bannon talking so much about, there'll be ice all over the polls, or what KKK Caroline Levitt says, oh, yes, we're going to have ice around, please. Focus on your ability to get out there and vote. And you know what? The more they say what they say, the more you should go out there and check your voter registration, ask people and tell people to check their voter registration and help register people to vote. By the way, you can donate to voting rights groups and voting organizations and people who do the work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, who really are doing the absolute great work around this country to educate people on voting rights. And so I want to put in here now one of the organizations that do this, and I really would love for you to subscribe, not to subscribe, but to donate to them. Black Voters Matter. They do excellent work all year round, registering people to vote, educating people on their voting rights. Very, very important. Very important. So please, please, please do that. Please make sure you check your voter registration periodically. Very much would appreciate you doing that. Remind people that you know and love to do the same. Please do these things. Sarah's suggestion is a really good one. Sarah writes, and if you are white, consider using your body as a shield to escort people of color into voting booths. Yeah, that's a very good idea. That's how you use your white privilege. Sarah's absolutely right. Again, as I said earlier, if you are an ally, if you're not black and you're watching this and you say that you're an ally and you say you're anti-racist and you say you're a humanist, well, do those things. There are people who've paid much more severe prices, much more severe, and I know and I get it. There's laws in certain states about you can't bring water to people who are on the polling. Again, there's these things in these states, a lot of these Republican controlled states, mechanisms designed to wear you down, not have you vote, shortening early voting, all these things, folks. And we need to be aware of this. I'll be talking about this in a lot more detail over the next few weeks and months. Be aware of all of these things. There's a lot of things that are going on with voting. Laura said, Stewart says, by the way, he wrote this earlier, in the 60s, Malcolm X, when Malcolm X became my one and only hero in this world. There you go, Stewart. In fact, on this bookshelf behind me, one of the books here is the autobiography of Malcolm X. Please read it if you haven't. Gosh, I've got to find that. It's on the bottom shelf here. Of many books that I have. Please read this book as well. Stuart knows what's up. Stuart knows the story, right? So please read this. Um, so by Alex Haley. And Laura says, Omar, I was 11. My Italian immigrant Nama wanted to take me. My pop said no. Wow. This was probably in Chicago you're referring to, Laura. Laura wrote that earlier. Laura, thank you. And Stuart, thank you. And everybody, thank you. I'm getting close to the end of this. But I really, really think, and Laura, thank you for that. Laura wrote, love Malcolm X. Yeah, I mean, this is what we need to do. We need to be teaching generations of people in our families about people like Malcolm X and about Coretta Scott King and Dr. Betty Shabazz and about people like Murray Evers, right? Medgar Evers and Murray Evers, right? We need to do these things. If you're a white person watching this, right, and you talk about all these things, please, please do. Educate people who are white. Educate people who don't know, who need to know, right? And Laura mentions, oh, I see, Laura. Okay, you're not in Chicago. We have to do these things. We have the power. We have more power than we think we do, and it's very, very important to talk about this voting because yes, there's lots of things to consider, but voting. If you don't vote out here, I'm telling you, we cannot sacrifice this. John Lewis talked about voting being essential, absolutely essential to exercising the franchise. LBJ, of all people, who once, when he was a House member, voted against an anti lynching law, that same LBJ, when he became president, the same LBJ before he became president, when he was running in 1960 as a VP candidate, he said, you know, um, oh gosh, I forgot the quote about the colored man, and if the lowest white man is better than the best colored man, if you can convince the lowest white man that he's better than the best colored man, this is the language that was used in 1960. He won't notice that you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him someone to look down on, and he will empty his pockets for you. And that's what's happening now. That's what's happened in 2016, in 2024, in 2020, in 2026. If you can convince the average white person that the Obamas are somehow apes, Lord, 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 they will empty their pockets. But there are a few people who are waking up. I need a lot more to wake up, right? But there's a few white folk who are waking up. That guy who called up on C-SPAN. I don't know. He voted for him 3 different times. He's a liar and he's a racist. Yeah, dude, you voted for him 3 different times, and you have to realize that? You waited until Friday of this past week to realize that? At least he apologized, but man, 3 different times? Anyway, we must vote, okay? LBJ, I wanted to finish my thought about that. LBJ, the same LBJ who, when he became president, said that the vote is the most important thing that we can ever have. We must cherish it. LBJ, during 1965, in the weeks and months running up to his signing of the Voting Rights Act of 1965, he signed that on August the 6th of that year. And you got to remember that this present Supreme Court is about to, I think anyway, eviscerate the final section of the Voting Rights Act that is still intact, that's Section 2. So I want you to look out for the Supreme Court this week. You might see some decisions this week. You might see some decisions regarding voting this week or in the next few weeks. We'll see. One silver lining is that we saw in the Supreme Court last week, or the week before, that they ruled that California's voting maps, the maps that we here in California voted to get 5 extra Democratic seats and kick out the 5 Republican seats, that those maps can go ahead for the midterms. So that's something that the Supreme Court upheld. That at least is good news. And I expect that the Supreme Court will uphold those in other places. Remember also that in Virginia this past week, speaking of voting, because it's so important, that in Virginia, the governor, Abigail Spanberger, signed into law the maps the election, the maps that are going into the elections for Virginia that will give the Democrats in the United States House 10 seats, thanks to the hard work of Louise Lucas, the Speaker of the House in Virginia, one of the speakers of Virginia, the Senate, the leader of the Senate in Virginia. If you do not know who Louise Lucas is, go and look her up. What a brilliant woman. Black woman. I think she's in the early 80s or mid 80s. Check out her feed, her social media on that platform that you might not like. This is a fighter. And we need fighters, and she's one of them. Louise Lucas. Oh, fantastic, fantastic. And by the way, a couple of other things before I sign off here. Um, please talk to people who did not vote in 2024. Find out why they didn't, and then tell them why they must now. Right? Get them registered. If they check your voter registration. Please do that, because these GOP states, they will send cards reminding you, have you voted or not? And if you're someone who hasn't voted in the last couple of elections, and this goes to people who didn't vote in 2024, there are a lot of these Republican states, they will take you off the voting rolls. If you've not voted in 2 or 3 elections in a row, there are Republican states who will absolutely take you off the voting rolls. And they may not even tell you. They may send you some innocuous looking card or postcard in the mail that looks like junk mail. And you might go, oh, this is junk mail. You just throw it out. But that might be the thing that's telling you, hey, this is the notice to you that we will remove you from the rolls if you don't respond to this postcard we've sent. Yeah, that's happening. You have hundreds of thousands of people in Georgia who've had their voter registration revoked. You're having that in North Carolina, in a number of states all over the country. It's so essential that, yes, Epstein is important, and yes, this is important, and yes, that, all those. But you know what's the most important thing? This. This. Because if you don't have that, and if you don't do that, we've got nothing. And, we've not had real democracy in this country anyway. It's only rich white men that's really had it for all these years. Black folk have only had the right to vote. Literally, if you look at the Reconstruction era, 1865 through 1877, that's basically it for black men, at least. Black women didn't even have the right to vote then. 1865 to 1877, Reconstruction, black men had the right to vote. And then what happened after that? Jim Crow for 90 years. 90 years of Jim Crow, terrorism, violence. The 14th Amendment wasn't upheld. You had the 1871 KKK Act, the Klan Act, which they're now using to prosecute Don Lemon and Georgia Fort and others with, by the way. Yeah, the enslavement codes of 1833 and before that, the slave codes in Alabama, which banned more than 5 black people who had been enslaved from standing in any place together. And again, a lot of these bogus indictments come from enslavement codes of the 1800s and 1700s. Oh, a couple of black people together. Oh, we can't have that. There were laws against that in this country. All not just in all over. Black folk couldn't congregate together. That was considered a riot. There's a book out now called Three is a Riot by Jelani Cobb, the professor out of Columbia University. He writes about various things around this. But this stuff really happened, folks. And you see, we all need to know American history. White people especially do. Because so many white people have been so duped and so miseducated. The most miseducated people in the United States are white people. Because you have to be sold a bill of goods to not be upset at all the injustices and outrages that happen to black folk over hundreds of years. You have to be told that this is a great country. And the mythology that's spun to you, the fairy tale that is spun to you, the fantasy that is spun to you, the escapism that's spun to you. It's really you got to really think about this. And someone asked about books. I think Edie did. Edie writes books for reference. I would love to learn. Edie, you anticipated me very well because I got some books right here. I've got some books for you, Edie. Not just for you, but for you. Since you heard this, I am ready for you. I've got plenty of books here. And that's what I want to close out with. The voting thing is very important. Please, please, please. And as Rebecca rightly points out, they're now trying to change the history and the curriculum. And the reason why they're doing that for everyone watching is they don't want the average white youngster to know anything about all this. They don't. They don't want them to know. Black folk, we are pretty much blooming aware of the history. We live the history. We are the history. As James Baldwin once said, we are our history. And America, the story of the Negro, as James Baldwin said in the 60s, in the 1970s, is the story of America. It is not a pretty story. Now, look, it's not to say there's lots of great things that we as black folk have done throughout history. We started civilization. We've done all these great things, inventions, pyramids, everything, right? But the history in the United States, white people need to get educated on. Civics, history, all of this. The Republicans, they're trying to erase everything because they don't want the younger white generation coming up to know about this. They just don't. And it's the responsibility of everyone who is white who's watching this to teach their children, to teach their kids or grandkids and family members and people they know about the real history of this country. And books, the Black Book. This is from 1974. Now, it's a reissue, but it's from 1974 originally. You can see Toni Morrison's the foreword. You can buy this anywhere. I'd buy it from the Studio Museum of Harlem. I really recommend this. The Studio Museum of Harlem. I think I got this from. Harlem in New York, of course. Harlem, USA. Please get this book. This is a really profound book. You need to really get this book. Toni Morrison's foreword, right? Another book that again, and please patronize black-owned businesses. That's the other thing I want to say, right? I typed them up at the beginning of the chat here that you might see. There's obws.com. That's official blackwallstreet.com, obws.com. You can get things from black-owned businesses there, not just this month, any month. Okay, I'm not saying this because I don't even look at this as a history month. It's history year. It's history every day, and you have to learn it. And I really want people who are white watching this to please patronize black-owned business. I want black people watching this to patronize black-owned businesses. You can use your money to stop going to Amazon and buy, and you can also buy independently as well. But I want you to shop black-owned businesses too. Don't go into Target. Spend some of that money with black-owned businesses. OBWS.com. That's officialblackwallstreet.com. Thousands of black businesses there. Shop blackstarnetwork.com. Hundreds of black-owned businesses there, right? Activelyblack.com. Black-owned apparel. Go shop there. They do great stuff. If you like what they're doing there, please patronize these folks. They do great work. They're black-owned bookstores, BEM Books in Brooklyn, BEM Books in Brooklyn. Shop with them. In fact, I got a book from there. It actually might have been this book. It actually might have been this. But there's another book I'm looking at that I am not going to go grab at the moment. That also is from these bookstores and these places. These are black-owned businesses. If you're an ally, if you're someone who's an anti-racist, please patronize these things. And black people, if you're watching me, please patronize these businesses. Please, all of you watching, whoever you are, black, white, whomever, please support black-owned media. Because black-owned media matters. I want you to continue to promote black voices, whomever you are here, whether you're black, whether you're white, please promote black voices. Roland Martin Unfiltered on YouTube, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin, has a show every day that he does between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern called Roland Martin Unfiltered. It gives you news like you've never seen, news you don't know about, things that are going on in black communities, the black panelists, black experts, black lawyers, economists, doctors, judges, politicians. This is a whole lot of things that you're not seeing in anywhere, including Substack. So you need to be supporting and patronizing Brother Roland Martin and a number of other people. He has a great Black Star Network, shopblackstarnetwork.com. Some other things I want to get to close out here as well. In light of what we saw on Friday with the Obamas, I want you to get this book, okay? I want you to get this book, buy this book, read this book, gift this book to other white people. If you're white watching this, right, you need to buy this book. This is a book that came out last year or the year before. Dr. Omakongo Dibinga. He is also on YouTube. He's also on Instagram as well. Dr. Omakongo Dibinga. He's also on Roland Martin's show once a week as a panelist. You need to be reading this book. You need to be buying this, okay? Very, very important, okay? And as Marnie points out, Roland Martin's wonderful. I love Bishop William Barber. Yeah, these are people you need to be supporting, lifting up their voices. You need to be restacking this to your white friends, restacking this to your white followers, restacking this to any follower. This is what we need. Would these people are ripping away history? No, not without a fight. We're not going to let that happen. I don't care how many things they try to erase. They're never going to do it. It's like when Napoleon went to the African continent and went into Egypt and tried and knocked off the nose off the Sphinx, an African featured nose off the Sphinx. I don't care. He can deface that all he wants. It's not going to change the fact that black folk built those pyramids. It's not going to erase the history. But you and I must play an active role of being really strong stewards of history, because that's your history too. As a white, listen, you've seen the meme that's gone around that says, slavery is white history and black history is how we survived and endured it. I think there's a big truth to that. That you can't deny that. And white people at large have to stop pretending that enslavement of black people didn't happen, or that it happened, a long time ago. You've got to stop that thinking. And if you know someone white who's saying that, you really need to have a talk with them. This is no joke. So we got to get real. These trolls that come on Substack, ignore them, block them. Someone, the other day, when I'm talking in my capital letters, and again, if you don't understand why I do that, please read the book Why Black People Tend to Shout by Ralph Wiley, Wiley. Why Black People Tend to Shout. by Ralph Wiley, Wiley. He's no longer with us, by the way. Please read that book. And that might give you an idea of why I do the capital letters, the uppercase that I do. But, someone in the chat, usually someone white, usually, quite frankly, usually a white woman. Oh, why, are you trying to pick a fight? How is me talking about the history of the United States and the history of white people enslaving black people in this country picking a fight? See, that's the thing, right? And that's one of the reasons I don't engage in foolishness and I don't engage with trolls. Because there are lots of people in chats who put their statements and comments in uppercase and they don't get anyone telling them, stop shouting at us, stop shouting at us. Because, some people can put things in uppercase, but when the black person does that, and when the black person does that, and they're talking about white complicity and actually white people, rich white men or white people in general, doing these injurious and racist things to black people, you get uncomfortable. Some white folk don't like that. Well, your discomfort again. So what? If you're uncomfortable, do something to change that. If you're uncomfortable, fight. If you're uncomfortable, be a real partner, not some progressive who comes into chats and then now wants to police people's voices. Because you ain't policing my black voice. You're not policing any black voice up in here. And black folk, we're not going to stand for that. As black people, we're not going to stand for anyone policing us. But I want you as a white person, next time you see that happening and a black person speaking up about things and trying and educating people, and you got some person who's white going, "Ooh, we already know this in here." I want you as a white person to be an ally in that moment. Instead of sitting back and watching it and eating your popcorn, get your popcorn ready moment. Nuh-uh, none of that. I want you to speak up and back that black person up. If you say you're an ally, I want you to do that. Tell the truth and shame the devil, right? If the devil's capable of any shame. And this is what we have to do, right? And do it in your everyday life, not just on a Substack platform, right? This is what we need to be doing because that's how we become stronger. Are you your brother and sister's keeper? That's the question. And then just the last couple of things in terms of books I want to recommend. I will remember those, the Latino, some of the Latino community, and the Latino community is very wide and diverse, okay? The Latino community is a wide and diverse community. I want to just point that out. A lot of people don't understand that, but it's true. Very wide. And hello to you, Amy. Hello to you. Amy, great to see you. Thank you for joining. Again, everyone, before I close out here, be a paid subscriber if you can. Would love for you to do that. Or be a free subscriber. Would love for you to do that. Either one. Greatly appreciated. If you can do paid, I would love that. Thank you so much for those of you who have. It would be great to have more of you do that if you can afford to. If you want to be free subscriber, fine. I love that too. Thank you very much for doing so. Thank you to those of you who are free subscribers as well. But here's one of the last two books, maybe last two or three, actually last four books I'm going to recommend here. Racial Innocence. Remember I told you, as you know this, all the members of various Latino communities saying, I will vote for Donald Trump. Remember all of that? And I hope that the video is not breaking up too much here, and I apologize if it is. But remember all of that? Remember all of that stuff? And then now people are really finding out about the consequence of that. Part of the reason why they voted that way has a lot to do with this. The anti-Black Latino bias, the anti-Black bias by Latinos, by some Latinos, by a cross-section of Latinos. Really important book by a Black woman who is also a Latina, who talks about this in this book. All right? That's another one. And thank you, Amy, for saying that the video, at least on your end, looks okay. Thank you for that. So yeah, that whole crowd and that group that sang that song, "I Will Board For," do you remember all of that in 2024? And now a lot of these people, they effed around, and I'm trying. I won't. I know I do curse on my podcast, but I'm really gonna try not to do that here on a live. And they effed around and found out, didn't they? You know. So that's one book. Another book that just came out is this book by brother Clay Kane. I believe he's on Substack, but I know he's on Blue Sky for sure, and he's on Instagram, I think, and a number of other places. I strongly recommend this book. It's a great novel. I'm reading through it right now. It came out at the end of January. This is brilliant. Clay Kane also did a book called The Grift, which you might be able to see behind me. See where the gavel is? You can probably see my finger pointing at that the other Clay Kane book called The Grift. You can see the spine of the book there, right where my finger is, right by the gavel, the judge's gavel. The Grift. That was Clay Kane's first book, right there. So this book here is brand new. Clay's been doing a book tour on this. This is a book you need to be reading. Very important book. It's called Burn Down Master's House. It's a novel. It's based on the Black resistance to enslavement because harmful films like Gone with the Wind of 1939 and Birth of the Nation, D.W. Griffith's film in 1915, perpetrated the racist stereotype, right, of Black people being the so-called happy slave. Oh, yes, sir, boss. I'm a happy slave. No, no, no. The real story is very, very different from that. There was Black resistance all over the place. And you have to know that. There were enslavement revolts. Nat Turner led one or two of them. There were other people who led enslavement revolts against their white master, white massa. We have to know about this history because it's our history. It's your history. It's your ancestors' history. You can't run away from it. Yeah, and the reason why we're in this mess we're in, and we've always been in, is because people and a society and a system has never looked at its original sin ever. The original sin of enslavement of Black folk. And without that, this country would be nothing. All that wealth, where do people think all this wealth came from? 244 years of enslavement labor of Black people. Where do people think that the wealth of the country came from? Ill-gotten gains. And that's never been confronted. And obviously the other original sin, of course, is genocide against Native Americans and stealing the land. I'm not getting away from that. But the original sin that is integral to this country is the enslavement of Black people for 244 years. And we've not, as a culture and as a country, ever faced up to that. White America has never faced up to it. I'm going to be very specific. Never faced up to it at large collectively. And that's one of the biggest reasons we are now where we are. Never been dealt with, Marnie, 100%. Never even been dealt with. Yeah, we're in 2026. And then you wonder why people get upset at Bad Bunny. And then you wonder about all the white lash that comes after you have Black people in power. All the white lash, because that's what it is, right? Everything that Black people have done to progress this society has benefited everyone. Black folk, white folk, Asian folk, all kinds of people. Don't hate on us. We're the righteous folk. We're the ones out here who've taken bullets for this country. We're the ones who are doing the work. We're the ones who are, we fight for this country even when it doesn't care about us. So these books are important. These books are really important, and voting is really important. This is so important. And the last two books on voting. One of the best attorney generals we ever had was this guy. In the Obama administration, this guy. The one that the Republicans kept screaming about and they wanted to do investigations on. Oh my God, Eric Holder, oh my God, we can't have him in here. You need to read this book about voting. Eric Holder is playing a real he was actually a consultant on Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign in 2024, but he's working behind the scenes. And I know there's people like Mark Elias as well on the legal front. Eric Holder also is doing a lot of work like this as well. And he continues to do that work. This book's called Our Unfinished March. He talks about voting in here. And in fact, this is a book that was copied. I think the first printing of it was in 2023 or 2024. I'm just trying to figure that out here. 2022. Okay. And remember the Supreme Court case in 2013, Shelby County versus Holder. That's the Supreme Court decision in 2013 that eviscerated the pre-clearance provision of the Voting Rights Act. And in fact, former Attorney General Eric Holder now famously says, don't say Holder, just say the Shelby decision. Don't say Shelby County versus Holder. It's the Shelby decision. It's not the Shelby versus Holder, even though the official title of the decision is Shelby County versus Holder, because Eric Holder was the Attorney General at that time. He was so hated, and it was absolutely the racism, the anti-black racism, as Amy points out, the anti-black racism of these white people who are in the Republican Party. Oh, Eric Holder, we go get rid of her. He's one of the best attorney generals we've had, because Merrick Garland was a piece of garbage, and Pam Bondi is hot trash, and so they have been awful, and we've had some doozies over the years, over the decades of attorney generals, awful ones. Terrible. I think wasn't John Mitchell an attorney general way back in the day under Nixon or whomever? I think he was John Mitchell at one point, wasn't he, attorney general? And you know the story around John Mitchell. Oh Lord, and how he treated Martha Mitchell, his wife. Those of you who don't know your history, wasn't all that long ago either. John Mitchell, I think he was, yeah, Rebecca. I think. Oh boy, John Mitchell under Nixon and all that stuff that happened with Martha Mitchell. Woo! I'm telling you, we've got to know. You got to know the history. You got to know the history, right? And and to any white person watching this later on or watching it now, this is your history too. That's why this whole notion of Black History Month, it's history, period. And it's your history too. Is a separate month, the shortest one of the year for Black folk? Come on, man. This history is continuous, as James Baldwin said. We are our history. You are your history in your own personal life. Things that happened to you 30 years ago, 40 years ago. But that's part of your history, and it's continuous. You can't divorce yourself from that. So how the hell is a country going to act like this stuff didn't happen? But yeah, again, yeah, Martha Mitchell, yeah, all that stuff. Yeah, people in the chat know about what Martha Mitchell, man. Go if you're watching this later, you don't know who Martha Mitchell was. Study Martha Mitchell, study John Mitchell, study all these folks. But study your history. All the freedom fighters in this place who fought and died for this place. Study the history. Jimmy Lee Jackson in 1965 in Selma. Study who that was. Study James Reeves, study Viola Louisa, study, all kinds of people. John Lewis, Diane Nash, Amelia Boynton, who created the marches for Dr. King, who strategized. Black women were the chief strategists, and they were at the front of these movements. Claudette Colvin, who passed away last year, Rosa Parks. These are people that you have to start looking at. Ella Baker, Shirley Chisholm, Barbara Jordan, Black women, Fannie Lou Hamer, Angela Davis, professor who is not far from here. So these are the people that we need to be we need to be really hip to, and so many others. So that's one book, right? Our Unfinished March has a quotes. in here. I'm going to read these out because I said these earlier. The vote is the most powerful nonviolent change agent you have in a democratic society. You must use it because it is not guaranteed. You can lose it. John Lewis. John Lewis, right there. And below that, this right to vote is the basic right, without which all others are meaningless. Thank you, Mary, for your time. Take care and be well, Mary. I'm going to be wrapping up in a few moments. Mary, thank you and everyone for watching. That was said by LBJ. We have to cherish voting, folks. And I want you to screenshot this, whatever you want to do, look at these two quotes and send these quotes to people who need to see these, who haven't voted, who stayed at home, who, oh, I'm not going to do it. Oh, I can't make up my mind between Vice President Harris and a convicted felon. That kind of nonsense. I want you to send these quotes to people, and I want you to understand that even LB freaking J, a bloomin' racist, even he understood about how important voting is. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Your vote matters. Your vote counts. Donald Trump wouldn't be talking all this mess if your vote didn't matter, okay? Jasmine Crockett, 100% Laura. Jasmine Crockett, vote for Crockett. I mean, tell people in Texas you know to vote for her in these primaries. I know Tallarico's out there too, but Tallarico says some anti-black things lately. Talking about Colin Allred, who was formerly a candidate here, as a mediocre black man. That's what Tallarico said the other day, a few days ago. So let's be really honest here, okay? And all this movement to try to discredit the black woman. Sound familiar from 2024? Oh, she's taking this. I'm going to say this again. Jasmine Crockett is not taking any APAC money. Never has, never will. Go look up opensecrets.org. And the next time you hear someone talking about Jasmine Crockett and lying about her, you need to correct them. Here again is the two quotes. I hope you can see both of those. Right? I want you to look at those. I want you to screenshot that. I want you to send that to people. If they ask you why voting doesn't matter, why voting matters, tell them. It's not just these quotes, though. It's all the things that are happening. I do not. Now, listen, Tallarico, listen, if I was in Texas, I would be voting for Crockett. I've done some phone banking for Crockett. Crockett's a fighter. She's genuine. She's real. She doesn't play about. She fights. She's fearless. The Republicans can't stand her. They respect her, but they're terrified of her. They've told her privately that they think she's doing an excellent job and that they wish that she was on their side. Trust me, if the Republicans are saying that and that's documented, Harris, Crockett herself has talked about this, that Republicans have come up to her privately and said, you know what? I really respect you. We respect you. We just wish that you were on our side. Republicans would love to have a Jasmine Crockett. And if they're telling you that, that should tell you something. She has a national profile. She's a fighter. She's done a track record of fighting. She's done it from the beginning. She challenges these Republicans. She speaks truth to power. She's smart. She's brilliant. She's fearless. She will call these people out. Tallarico, what has he done? He's on the state Senate level. He doesn't get the exposure, obviously, because he's on a lower level in terms of governance. I'm sorry, it's not close. And it's a primary. So I'm going to advocate for the person I would like to see win that primary next month. March the 3rd is the Texas primary. Her name is Jasmine Crockett, the congresswoman out of the 30th District of Texas. And I want you, if you're a Crockett person watching this, I want you to do everything you can to help her get over the line next month. Everything. Okay? You can go phone bank with her, mobilize.us. That's mobilize.us. Please phone bank for her, donate to her if you want. But I'd really rather you phone bank to her if you have an hour or so. Whatever you can do, right? From anywhere in the country, because we want fighters. All these results in these elections are going Democrats' way, even in these Republican places, all over the place. We see a first female mayor in Miami's history last year, right? She won that race convincingly in Miami. Forget her name now. Eileen Thompson or Eileen Tompkins or Eileen Thompson, whatever her name is there. First female mayor. Democrats hadn't had a Democrat in as mayor of Miami for 28 years. We're seeing we're seeing this all over the country, folks. And that's why you've got Henny Penny, the sky is falling, Donald Trump talking all this BS. Oh, the elections aren't right. Tulsi Gabbard and her role in all this. We need to be impeaching her ass too, by the way. All these people need to be impeached. Just think when Alejandro Mayorkas was the Department of Homeland Security Secretary under Biden, these Republicans actually impeached him. First time in over 150 years that a cabinet official have been impeached. And Mayorkas didn't do anything. Didn't do anything wrong. Just ridiculous. One last thing, two last things. Remember the Clintons are going to be testifying live. I think they're going to do it. I don't know if they're going to do it directly in person before the House Oversight Committee on February the 27th and 28th. I think President Bill Clinton goes first on the 27th. On the 28th, it's going to be former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. 2 separate days. They're going to be testifying live, either on a monitor or in person. I forget which. Here's the other thing. James Comer, the Republican who leads that committee, the House Oversight Committee that Robert Garcia is the ranking member of, do you know that James Comer, excuse me, not Comey, Comer, James Comer, do you know that he wanted the Clintons to testify behind closed doors? And the Clintons were like, F this. We're not testifying behind closed doors, man. We're doing this live for the public. So you can doctor the video? So you can change stuff? Hell no. James Comer, no. And so the Clintons said, no, F that stuff. F that shit. Pardon me. we're going to be freaking well testifying live, open for the public, live. So you can't doctor this stuff. Like Jack Smith testifying live and open publicly, as Jack Smith did last month. So look out for that at the end of the month, February 27th and 28th, right? Before the House Oversight Committee on Epstein and all this other stuff. And let me tell you, if and when the Democrats come back to power, all of these Trump folk who are pulling this stuff now, they're going to get their asses hauled in front of everybody as well, if they decide to show up. And we know they're not even going to show up. So that's almost it. The other book to close out with is this great book by Carol Anderson. Professor Carol Anderson is another great professor. You need to be really reading her books. Professor Carol Anderson, I think she's out of the University of Chicago. She's done a number of books. This book is brilliant that she's written. I was trying to find you a picture of her, but I can't find it. She's a black professor out of Chicago, I think the University of Chicago. Again, this is the book, right? This is how important voting is. Actually, she's at Emory University. Actually, this is the photo of her on the back. Okay, I don't know if you can see this closely enough. And that's the price of the book. At least that's what the price of it was when I bought it. But that is Carol Anderson, Professor Carol Anderson. She might be on Substack as well. I think she is. Give her a follow on Substack. Right? You need to be following these folks. You need to be buying these books. You need to be gifting these books to people. Right? There's a great history in here about all these things that I've talked about: voter ID, disenfranchisement, all of these election networks, all of these committees. There's a resource bank at the end of the book, and she even mentions Black Voters Matter Fund, as I did earlier. I put them in the chat. right? There's a whole list of organizations in here that you can donate to. Fair Vote, Stacy, Fair Vote. You might see that Fair Fight Action and Fair Vote. These are organizations. Stacey Abrams' organization. You need to absolutely be looking at these places and donating to them more so than the candidates. These organizations that she lists in her book, among others, these are the kinds of places, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund and all that. Sherilyn Ifill, who used to be the head of that, she's on social media. She's on Substack. I think she's on Blue Sky. These are folk you need to be getting yourself familiar with. Subscribe to these folks, right? Joy Reid, subscribe to Joy Reid. Subscribe to Michael Harriot. Subscribe to these black folk on here who are doing a damn good job. Don Lemon, all these folks, be paid subscribers to them, be paid subscriber to me, be a free subscriber to them or me, all of us, right? Waj has done a very good job as well. You need to be doing that. So these are the kinds of books and people you need to be getting in touch with, okay? I'm going to, all these names that you're talking, absolutely. It would be great for you to pick up these books and continue to do so, Amy. And if you're doing that, that's great. Make sure you tell other people you know to do the same, right? That has been it. My goodness, a bit longer than I expected. Always is. But thank you for sticking with it on this Sunday afternoon now, if you're on the eastern coast of the United States and wherever you might be east of that. It's still morning here in San Francisco. Oh my gosh. The Super Bowl has descended on this city like crazy. And it's in Santa Clara, 40 miles south of here, in about, It's going to be in about, 5 hours, 5.5 hours exactly from this moment as I'm recording this live. I know the pre-game is going on. If you're a Super Bowl junkie, I know you'll watch that. If you're not, get outside and get some exercise if you can. Please do. Take care of your mental health, all of that good stuff. Get a good night's sleep. Please, please, please do. Thank you so much for all of your support. Please subscribe, hit the hearts as you've done. Thank you so very much for doing that. It's always a great pleasure. I'll try to do one of these again soon. Remember that this coming Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, yours truly and Cordell Martin of the Black Reel Awards. We'll be talking about film. We'll be talking about the Black Reel Awards and that organization and its awards that are coming up as well. So please tune in here. The reminders should have gone out to you in your emails, and it will be also should be on my Substack. But again, please spread the word about this Substack. You have been watching. Please subscribe as a paid or as a free subscriber. You have been watching, and thank you, Amy. Ooh, thank you for that, Amy. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As she says, love your accent, Omar. Oh, I've got Amy. That's very, very kind. Thank you so very much indeed. That's really nice. It's always nice to get compliments. It's always nice. Um, it is. And Amy, thank you. And I love the fact that you're here, Amy. And thank you for saying that. And Morgan and Edie and everybody else and Laura and Rebecca and Marnie, all of you, so many more of you who've watched here live, and those of you who will continue to watch this, I guess, after we are done here. But thank you so very much, everyone, for watching. You have been watching Live with Omar. Thank you, Leanna. Really appreciate those kind remarks from you as well. You have been watching, fellow viewer and listener. You've been watching Live with Omar here, Live with Omar Moore on this Bad Bunny Sunday. I do hope that you enjoy your day. Watch that halftime show. It's going to be an absolute cracker, a brilliant firecracker of a show, I'm sure. So I'm looking forward to that with Bad Bunny and all the rest. It's absolutely brilliant to have you here on this Sunday morning, afternoon, wherever you might be watching this across the world. Be well, be safe out there. Please get a lot of sleep, drink plenty of water, and stay off the screens for as much as if you can. I know you're watching this, but no more doom scrolling, please. And at least an hour before you go to bed, turn off your cell phone or at least stop scrolling. Screens can be a real problem, and I'll talk about that again. Take care of your mental health and be well. Enjoy the rest of your Bad Bunny Sunday, everybody. Listen out for the Politicrat coming up later as well. Take care, everyone. Be safe, be well, and until next time, take care.